Here today I have another video. This is going to go over the shifter box and cable install since I've gotten a few requests on what to do with this. This will cover, I'm going to basically be using my R56 that I used in the latest how to install video, but the process is going to be the same if you have an R53 chassis. It's not going to be any different. Now, the shifter box itself, if you have an RSX style transmission, this is the shifter box part number you're going to use. If you are using a TSX Accord or Honda Civic Si, it actually works backwards. So Hybrid Racing has a dedicated shifter box for it. Specifically, the boxes that I like to use is made from Hybrid Racing. It's called the no-cut shifter box. The reason why I like to use this is because it basically allows you to bolt it underneath the tunnel on the chassis, just like the OEM one does. And you can retain your shifter console, cup holders, and all that. If you get one of those aftermarket billet style boxes, you have to mount it on top, which will require you to remove the center console. And you'll also have to make an access hole to feed the shifter cables through. So that's why I like to choose this shifter box. It's pretty straightforward, it's simple, and it's pretty easy to install. You're gonna need some small things. You're gonna need a drill with some drill bits. I purchased this kit off of Amazon. It was pretty cheap. I wanna say this whole entire thing was about $60. It's a Rivet insert tool kit. This makes it a whole lot easier. Basically, to give you a quick rundown, this is intended for a Honda Civic K-swap. So this bolt pattern is already made to bolt up to the Civic tunnel. Since the bolt holes don't line up with the Mini, what I'm gonna do, and the reason why I use a Rivet kit, is because I'm going to mock this up in place. I'm going to mark these holes on the Mini chassis with a Sharpie, and basically where these holes end up is where you're gonna be drilling and inserting the riv nuts. That way, these get locked into the chassis and you can easily zip on and off the bolts as needed to get the shifter box on and off whenever you're doing some maintenance. As far as the shifter cables go, they have to match the box that you're using. So if you have an RSX transmission, you'll be using RSX shifter cables. If you have the Z3 transmission from like the Civic Si, they are different, so you'll have to use the Civic Si cables. This is pretty much a layout of what you're gonna need. The other thing that I almost forgot is you can get these off of Amazon. I've got these laying around, so I'm gonna just use them for now for the install. But you basically are gonna need these 3 clips. 2 of them are gonna attach on this end of the cable that go to the transmission on here to lock this into the shifter bracket. And then you'll need 1 for this cable to install onto the box. And then the other side of this cable is basically just a twist lock scenario where you don't need any clips. This locks into place onto the shifter box. And then these 2 cotter pins, they're basically to hold the ends in the transmission itself where they hook up. So that's pretty much an explanation and an overview of what you'll need. So now I'm gonna lift the car up and start removing the factory shifter box and cables. I'm gonna mark that up and basically go for the rest of the install. All right, so I've got the exhaust system, the mounting plate, and the heat shield removed. You'll be left with something like this. So there's your OEM shifter box and cables. What you'll wanna do next is you'll take a T40 Torx driver, and you basically have 1 bolt in here, 1 in here, and then these last 2 here. Once you remove those 4 bolts, you can grab the cables, just pull down on it, and this box will separate and you'll be able to remove it. Before you get to this step though, I actually had already removed it, but on the inside of the interior, you'll just want to grab the shift knob and pull it out towards you. Just give it like a good pull, and the shift knob itself will come out, and then you can get to this step and remove the box. I've got the OEM shifter box and cables removed. This is what you'll be left with. Now the next step from here will be mocking up the shifter box. take into account this offset. All right, you'll be able to adjust this however you want in the interior. This is, really preference, but take a note of the offset on this and you'll see why in a second. The next step will basically be mounting the box. I'm gonna mock it up in its place to see exactly where we're gonna mount it. Basically gonna wanna remove this bottom cover. Once you remove the bottom cover, it'll give you access on the inside and you'll see these mounting bolts. And then that's where you'll wanna mount it in place. And again, take note of the opening for the shifter rod to go through. You're gonna want it almost in the center, but basically the idea is you're gonna wanna mock this up in place as straight as possible. And again, with this cover off, I'm just using it as a demonstration, but with this cover off, you'll be able to see the holes. And that's where you'll take your Sharpie, you'll make your marks. This might take you a few tries. Again, have someone hold this or hold it in place while you go inside and make sure that the shifter rod is centered and coming out where you want it to before you make any permanent mounting holes. Once you mark it with the Sharpie, you'll remove it. You'll basically drill in to your chassis and insert the riv nuts. Be careful when drilling through. If you have a long drill bit, again, you don't want to drill into any of the wiring or plastic. So just take your time with it, install the riv nuts, and then from there you'll be able to install your box and continue forward. But I'm gonna go ahead and mount mine up and then I'll be right back. I just got done doing the riv nut install. So now the idea is you can be able to just bring up your box, line it up, bolt it, and anytime you want to remove it in and out in the future, you can do so by yourself. If you don't like this idea of the riv nut or you don't have access to one or don't know how to use it, what I have done in the past is I will basically make a template of the factory bolt holes on the mini chassis and transfer it onto here. That way you can utilize the factory mini bolt pattern. The problem with doing that is I forgot where it is, but one of the mounting points will basically be in one of these brackets themselves and you won't be able to bolt it down. So that's why I decided to start doing my own, riv nut install with the Civic bolt pattern. But, that's where it's going to come down to preference. You basically are going to want to do what's more comfortable and beneficial to you. This is just the way I decided to start doing them. It makes it a lot easier for me. All right, just like that, the shifter box is now bolted and installed. The next step now is going to be installing the shifter cables. This is pretty much straightforward, but the car that this comes off of has this rubber grommet because the cables actually go from inside of the car out through the chassis. Since we're not going to be utilizing that, I'm going to take a razor blade, cut this down the middle and remove it. We won't be needing it. Keep this bracket because, believe it or not, that actually lines up and will bolt right here onto the chassis to help secure it out of the way. You'll just remove this factory bracket and bolt that one on there. The secondary one won't be needed, so you could just open it up down the middle, remove it, and get rid of it. You won't need it. And then the rest will just hook up onto the transmission. So I'm gonna go ahead and install this up there, and it's pretty much self-explanatory. You'll have these clips holding these two washers in. You'll basically remove the clip, remove the one nylon washer, slide the cable over, slide the one nylon washer on there, and then reinstall the clip. Same thing for this side. And then again, one of the cables, which is this one with the notch, it'll actually go in, twist, and it'll lock in place. The second cable, you'll put it through, and then you'll put one of the clips that I mentioned earlier. And that's pretty much for this box. Once you do that, you'll go ahead and reinstall the bottom cover. You actually have this grommet and cutout for the cables to come out through. And then once that's bolted, you can basically reverse the steps. Install the exhaust heat shield, install the exhaust, the mounting plate, and that pretty much covers the install for the shifter box and cables. So I'm gonna go ahead and install these, and then I'll show you what it looks like once it's completed. This is what it'll look like once it's all completed. I've got the shifter cables all hooked up and secured. The bracket, as I mentioned, will bolt to the factory stud on the Mini. Then I've got the cables running right underneath the steering box. So you'll have plenty of clearance for the exhaust to come right down and under the subframe, and there will be no interference whatsoever with heat getting onto the cables. But they'll go underneath the rack and pinion, like I said, up to the top and hook up to the shifter mechanism. Once that's all done, you'll grab the bottom cover plate, you'll hook it up onto the shifter cables, and then this will go back in place, put the 4 bolts, and then you just reverse the steps, installing all the OEM components, and that's about it. So I hope this video was helpful on basically, doing the shifter cable and box. I've been asked a lot, which one I use and what cables. So I hope that pretty much covers it and helps you guys out.